Hi, Mike. How's it
Hey,
going?
good morning, Jerry. I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
I had a couple questions for you. I'm looking
Sounds
at
good.
one of the case studies you sent over to me.
Yep.
This one's titled Turning a Non-Performing Mortgage Note into a Profitable Investment.
Yes.
And this is the successful turnaround of a non-performing mortgage note. This house is in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And there were some challenges. There was a loan modification and a few things that happened during the process of this loan. But with persistence through the process and good communication, we were able to get this to both a profitable recovery and the borrower staying in the house. Is that right?
Yeah. It was. It's one of our. I think it's one of our success stories. You know, we buy notes with investor money, and our investors did very well. At the same time, we bought a property or bought a note where the borrowers were behind, and we're able to work with the borrowers so they keep the house, and our investors make some pretty good money at the same time. So that's a win-win for everybody.
And I think that's what we want in all situations, is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, it does say in here that there was a delinquency and a loan modification.
Yes.
Can you tell me about how far delinquent this borrower was, how the loan modification attempt went, and how First Shield Financial navigated the process of that?
Sure. So what happened with this loan, I always like to say bad things happen to good people. So in this case, some things happened in the family and they weren't able to make their payments for a number of years. And, we picked this note up, through our sources, and we saw it. It looked like a really good opportunity. And we went out to try to see what we could do to help the borrower. And again, to make sure our investors do well.
And so we walked through that process.
Yes.
And what are some of the attempts that you made to reach out to this borrower? How did you get in contact with them? And what ultimately came of the loan modification that was put in place?
Okay. Unlike some other borrowers, this was a great borrower. We called, and it wasn't like we called and called and called. We called, we played a little bit of telephone tag, and we connected. And whenever we have a loan, the first time we talk to a borrower, one of the first things we say is, "So what happened? Why'd you stop paying? You're paying all along, and then boom, you stop paying." And the borrower just said, things happen in the family, and we could not make the payments. So then I said, "Well, do you want the house? Do you want to keep it? What do you want to do?" They said, "Yes, we want to keep the house. We want to make sure that we stay. I have wonderful memories in this house. I want to keep this house." It's like, great. So let's come up with a plan so that we can get you paying again, pay down the loan, and then ultimately modify it, and you can keep the house. Keep this house in your family. So that's what we did. Before we do a loan mod, we actually do what we call a temporary payment plan. And a temporary payment plan is just because you've not been paying, we want to make sure that we can build a track record of you making regular monthly payments on time. And what happened in this case, the borrower struggled to try to do that. They tried really hard. But the problem was they couldn't get the consistency in the payments. And as a result, we couldn't modify the loan.
So that probably triggered some additional action once they couldn't make those payments. How did that move forward once the borrower couldn't make those payments? And how did that process go?
So what happened was they stopped making the payments, and then after a while, they kind of disappeared on us. As long as we're talking to a borrower, we can probably work something out. But when they stop talking to us, and that's what happened in this case, then we have to do what our fiduciary duty, which is to take care of our investors. So we escalated and ultimately took the house to foreclosure.
So we took the house to foreclosure, and in that process, we're obviously communicating with the attorney at that time. And is the attorney able to get in touch with the borrower?
Well, typically at that point, When the attorneys get involved, they don't talk to the borrowers very much. They'll talk to the borrower's lawyers, but they won't talk to the borrower. And, unfortunately, when you go into any of the legal situations, a lot of the direct communication between the lender and the borrower are severed, and you have to go through the process to make sure that that it's done correctly. So no one could talk to them.
So the communication between First Shield Financial was with the attorneys processing the foreclosure, and we know that the borrower ended up keeping this property. So how did that come about? How did the win-win come together on this one?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier on, I developed a really good rapport with the borrower. We had a lot of conversations. I knew a lot of the stuff going on in the family, all this kind of stuff. So the foreclosure proceeded as it legally is supposed to do in the process and so on. In a foreclosure process, you go through the court hearings, the court makes a ruling, the sheriff then executes that ruling. The sheriff in this case had to auction off the house. Before they could do that, there's some steps they have to take in order to publish and whatever, let people know that the auction is coming. As we got closer to the auction date, the borrower was scrambling. She's calling me going, hey, is there something we can do? Is there something? And it's out of my hands. It's illegal, She was calling all of her friends, family, relatives. Ultimately, she found a family friend that said, I'll pay it off. And, so 24 hours, and it's not like they didn't cut it close. 24 hours before the auction, she calls me up. I got the money. What can I do? I got the money. And it's legal. So I said, call the law firm, see what they say. They ought to be able to do something to help you. So she called the law firm, and law firm didn't call us. I didn't know. I see this cryptic email from the law firm that says, stop foreclosure. I have no idea what that means. That was an email that was sent to the sheriff to stop the foreclosure because they had wired all of the money to the law firm. Net result, you don't owe me any money. The sale is stopped, and you get to keep the house.
So at that point, the sale is stopped. The borrower is keeping the house.
Yes.
The investors in this loan with First Shield Financial are made whole.
Yes.
So I guess that begs the question, how well did the investors do on this particular second loan that was a non-performing second note?
Yeah. They made, 250, 300% return on their money.
250 to 300% on that particular deal.
Yes.
And how long did that take for the process to work through on this note?
That's a really good question, Mike. I think it was less than 2 years, less than 24 months.
Less than 24 months.
Yeah.
So good communication, good identification, and good management of the asset. Sounds like it turned out well for all parties.
Absolutely.
Jerry, I really appreciate you sharing this one with me.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
And I'm glad you enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Jerry.
All right. Bye-bye.